So, good morning. Those of you that, if any of you came last time, I'm trying to make it slightly different this time, and you'll definitely see some new things. I was asked for a title for this, and I thought of it all too late, along the lines of getting started with lining. So the first thing is, before you actually start painting, is your bow pen going to work? Now, I did a little diagram here. Is it going to be big enough? There we go. So the principle is that the inside edge of your bow pen, is what needs to come into contact with the surface you are painting. So if this edge here is the inside edge of my bow pen, that has got to come into contact with what I'm going to put the paint on, and there must be no excess metal, no matter how small, stopping that coming into contact. So you've got two profiles drawn on here. That's quite often what it looks like before I've actually done anything to it. You can see it's quite fat at the bottom, and there's a possibility that the bottom edge is stopping the inside edge coming into contact, because if the inside edge doesn't come into contact, the paint isn't going to touch the model. So what I'm doing in the honing process is taking off the excess and thinning it down to much more of a blade approach. So I'm not going to take you through the whole process. I'm just going to show you what basically goes on.
Does it be both leaves?
Yes.
Same size both leaves, right?
It's very important that what you end up with is a complete and very accurate mirror of either side. So what I'm actually doing, I've got a grindstone here, and I'm just taking it down either side. So that's one side, turn it over, do the other side. Now I'm not going to do many before I get my eyeglass to check it. You've got a bit of debris on there, but I'm checking it to see that I still have a nice smooth parabolic curve, and that both are a mirror of each other. Now I've done quite a bit of honing this weekend for some quite basic pens, which I said I'll get working, and that's my aim. And there's when we've gone to put the paint in and draw with it, it's been intermittent and a bit rough, and that's because when I've gone back and checked, I haven't got a perfect match. One blade is slightly longer, so it needs to be evened up, taken back a bit. And I'm actually getting it to the point where it will almost cut paper. So if I do that, you might be able to see that I'm making indentations into there. And if I lift the paper up, I'm almost cutting the paper. Now clearly you don't want to be cutting the paint that's on the model, so when I get to that particular point, I'm then taking a different approach. I'm just blunting down the end very slightly. Okay, I might want to finish off with a bit of wet and dry around the outside, just to make sure it's smooth, and keep in a check that one is a mirror of the other, because it won't work properly until you get to that particular point. And in Blue Peter fashion, here is one that we did earlier. And if I rotate,
how often would you have to redo that, if at all? I mean, considering you're doing an awful lot of lining,
yep.
How often would you have to redo your?
This is my number one pen. It does probably about 90% of my work. I put a bit of wet and dry on it a few weeks ago. Haven't done that in years.
So for normal
work,
use,
yep.
Probably
that's it. It's about getting it right, and then it's pretty much going to be there.
Right.
Okay. So we've got a perfect parabola on there. I'm not going to put paint into that one. That's that one. Okay. But I am going to... So this is where we move on to actually getting some lining done. You might recognise this if you were here last year. Test piece. There we go. Brush. Now slightly different from last year, because last year I was straight out of the Humbrol enamel tin. I still use Humbrol enamels. Where's my big screwdriver? I still use Humbrol enamels, but I get really annoyed when they keep drying up part way through. My big screwdriver, I think I've left it down the end, is on the end spray booth. There should be a nice big flat-ended screwdriver. Oh, perfect, thank you very much. I thought I got everything. Thank you very much. Yeah, I started using these. These are enamel. They're sign writers enamels. Okay, and this particular one is well on. When I get this open, there we go. I don't think it will spill. You're probably going to see that there's a skin on it. That's fine, so long as it's not dry underneath. Oh, come on. There we go. The other ones that I'm going to use, I have actually opened recently, so it's coming. It's coming. I was going to say, you'd think that of all the courses, this is probably one of the safest ones. Okay. What I would say is, when you're doing something nice and safe, like preparing boiler bands. So these are some boiler bands that I've painted recently, painted onto transfer paper. I made the mistake the other day of thinking, oh, I've got 15 minutes before I need to be going out somewhere. Come on. There we go. If not, I just use a different colour. And so my next slice, you just need to make sure your finger is behind the ruler with the craft knife. Because it's interesting what a millimetre of skin looks like. So, right, there we go. Oh, come on. No, I'm going to go orange. There we go. Right. This one's going to be fine. There we go. This one's not going to have a skin on it. You'll get to see some skin in a little while. Now this is... I can't use this straight out of the tin like you can with your Humbrels generally. Okay, so I do have a number of tins there, and I do like to mix different colours of orange depending on where it's going. There's a Great Western Loco down here. It's this paint with a tiny spot of brown in it. You really don't need much brown to darken it off. But I will vary that colour depending on where if it's going on to green, if it's going on to the buffer beams, or if it's early Great Western, it's going on to Indian red. It needs to be somewhere in between the two. Okay, there we go. So, just a little sample of paint there. Okay. Now, a little bit of white spirit, and I mean a little bit of white spirit. Now, let's see if you can see it. One drop. Where's my short one? There it is. There we go. Okay, now what I'm looking for here is, when I pick it up, I'm looking for it to go drip. That's probably just a tad on the slow side, so I'm going to chance another small drop. If it's too thin, disaster. It's going to flood. It can flood out. Worst case scenario, it can affect the colour intensity. It will vary as you draw your line, or also you could be drawing your line, and as you move the pen along, you can see the paint settling and ever so slightly spreading out. It means the paint's too thin. If it's too thick, you're going to struggle to get it to flow. When you're spraying, you generally want it as thin as you can get it to cover. When you're lining, it's on the thicker side, but thin enough to go through. So that one will do. First thing I'm going to do is make sure that it flows. Let's just move that over that way a little bit. So you try not to get my hand in it. Right. Now, what you need to be aware of is how perpendicular I'm keeping the pen. Perpendicular in all directions. There is a little bit of tolerance either way, but good practice, try and keep it as upright as possible. I've seen people going at it at 45 degrees where you're not on the bit that you've honed. So keep it as upright as possible. Right, now I want to go a little bit thinner actually. The paint is on the thin side, so I can get it. Actually, now I can see what I'm doing. There we go. So we have our line. Now, the idea of this particular bit is showing you the first line on the model, but on the basis that I've already got a line on here, I need to get this line in the right place. And what I'm doing, I've got a set of dividers here set to 1.5 inches, I think it was, wasn't it? And it just so happens one point is slightly lower than the other and a little bit more pointed, so I can virtually trace where one line is and scratch very lightly where the other line goes, and I've made a mark either end. So now it's a case of lining the ruler up just below, looking for the marks. This is where you need your where you really need the visor. Okay, it needs to be a certain distance below where I'm going, but I'm going to test it at either end. I'm just putting a very small mark in the paint. You probably won't see it on the camera, but I've just made a very small mark with the paint on the surface, just to check where the pen is going to draw. And there we go. Get the paint to flow. And we have that nice LNWR livery of grey, cream and orange. There we go. I've done the verticals. Okay, there we go. So, can we see that okay? Right, now we've got to do the curve. Curves, particularly the tight ones, are better done with a brush. I don't work for Winsor & Newton, I don't hold any shares for Winsor & Newton, but I haven't found a brush that will do the same to the same extent. I have actually just ordered a couple of new brushes, about 20 quid a throw now these, but these ones here have lasted me years. This one is still fine. This is 000 standard, series 7 000 standard. I've got a 000 miniature and a 00. It's just that I noticed my 000 miniature, the point was not as good as it has been. Got a block of wood. Oh, that one will do. Hand rest. There we go. So now, because I would make a mark where I want the curve to start and to finish, but because I've already got a curve here, I basically just need to draw another one in that is parallel. So just a small amount of paint. Work with your hand on the inside of the curve and follow it round. There we go. Now, I don't know how good the quality is to see on that. Obviously I'm not going to leave it like that. I read an article in MRJ, it was somewhere around number 70 by the eminent Mr. Brackenborough, and it showed pictures of his work during. Now, I used to be quite guarded about showing work during because it gives away all the secrets and and the things you can get away with. But it did actually, what it actually showed me is how much it's down to not only putting the paint on correctly, but then taking off the excess and how you tidy up. And that is at least half the job. So I've just dipped that brush. I'm actually using the same brush here. I've cleaned it off in white spirit. I've just moistened it, and I'm just going to trace round. I'm going to trace around the inside of the curve to remove the excess. Okay, I'm just stroking the inside of the curve, and it takes out the excess. Okay, dry it on some tissue and take out, do the same thing on the outside. If you are drawing a line, a straight line, and you get a miss, a bit where the paint hasn't deposited, you can go back with the bow pen before you move your ruler and replace that missing bit. Sometimes it might make it look a bit fat at that particular point, and that's where you come back with the brush and just stroke the outside. And there, talking while I've done it, I've managed to take the curve out. It happens, yeah. It's because I'm not holding it with this finger, that's what it is. But what you do, you just go back in, rinse and repeat. There we go. Actual fact, that's a tidier curve there. It's a bit too thick, but it's certainly tidier. Okay. There we go. Okay. I would tidy that a little bit more, but there we go. Alright, there we go. That'll do for now. Is that in focus? There we go. Right, so that's been on test models. Let's get somebody's model up.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Yes.
If we turn these forward lights off, the definition might be better on.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if anybody else thinks that.
Good idea.
Yep.
Good idea.
There's too much light on the screen, it's not getting definitions.
Thank you. Yep. Brilliant.
How do we turn the lights on?
Yep. That's over there. Right. So what I'm planning to do here, I've got two things to show you. I'm going to, because if you've put your lines on, you've put your first lines on. Oh yeah, that's
much better.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So let's focus
So
on.
you go right back to the start and do the entire thing again.
Good idea. Are you sitting comfortably? So there we go. Having put some lines on, the next thing might be the colour that goes down the middle. If you are doing Great Western lining or BR green lining, it's actually a simple case of putting a black line down the centre. That is supposed to be an inch. To be honest, in 4mm, you notice the black line. You notice that there's green there. You certainly notice if the green isn't there with some proprietary lining that you can get ready printed, the black touches the orange, and it to me just doesn't look right. But that's just a case of I've got two lines aimed down the middle. I did say earlier on that there is actually a little bit of leeway with holding the pen at right angles. If you vary the angle towards yourself and away from yourself, you actually find you move the line ever so slightly up a bit or down a bit. That could be handy if you notice you're not quite exactly in the centre. Right, what do I want?
Those boiler bands, they're orange. Do you draw two lines?
Yes.
And they're black down the middle. You don't do one flat line.
No, that's two thin lines because I want the green. The green is actually present between.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
What about when you do, say, for Midland or LMS coach lining? Would you do the yellow and then the black on top?
Thin lines.
Two thin lines.
Yep, thin lines. So the LMS coach lining. There are different schools of thought as to which colour to do first, because I've had discussions with three of the other painters. I prefer to put the thin red line on the outside first, then the gold lines. So there's two red lines, then two gold lines, then two more red lines, because the gold line is trimming the red line is then trimming the gold, and then fit the black down the middle. Some others put the gold on, two gold lines, then the red either side. I don't think I'd try that in 4mm.
What about 2mm?
Size isn't everything. No, I've only ever done that in 7mm, and there's over there's one that I've done, and one that's under construction. Sorry, under painting construction. Right, here we go. The next colour, a bit of black, and this time we've got a skin, but it's a thin skin. Okay, paint is still good under there. Okay, so I'm just going to pick up a little bit. There we go.
What's the advantage of these new paints over the humble ones? Why have you switched?
Fed up with them drying up too quickly, and I have had a couple of tins that weren't quite up to standards.
You found some of the newer ones are not so good.
Yeah. I think that they have actually improved a bit with age. Oh, there we go. Let's get it off your fingers. But the paint lacked body, and again, when I was drawing my line, I could see the lines spreading out and settling.
These new ones enamels as well.
Yeah, that was enamel. I only ever line with enamel. You're not allowed to say the A word in here. Right. Okay. I know there is a school of thought that, certainly according to a certain Mr. Wright, that it would appear that these days you have to be allowed to drink your paint. And that's what's affected the quality. Right, so here we go. Let's see how thick that is. Oh yeah, just want another drop. I'd rather put too little and have to add, because otherwise I've got to add paint. Right. Oh yes, perfect. There we go. So I'm going straight back into the same bow pen. This particular bow pen costs less than, just over £5. 39 years ago from a stationer's shop. Is there anybody here that doesn't know what a station? No, all too. Nobody.
So is that because you've honed it nicely, or was you just lucky it was a very good pen?
No, it was. It's got no name on it. This was honed by Mr. Brackenborough actually. He came round once and I said, "Oh, my new bow pen doesn't work." So he sat down at my table, and that's where I found out how you do it on a honing stone. And I've done a little work to it since, but yeah, 39 years ago. There we go. Nice test line. So here we go. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fit the black down the middle. Now my approach to this, I've lined the ruler up on the white line because I know the spacing that I'm looking for, because the black line isn't going to be right up against the ruler. There's the thickness of the bow pen to take into consideration. There we go. I was a bit concerned that it wasn't quite as forthcoming, so that's the advantage of the cutting mat. If you need to break the surface tension of the paint, or you spend a bit too long talking and without working, it starts to dry, and the cutting mat will get round that. There we go. We have a line adjacent to the white line. Okay, I'm actually effectively trimming the edge of the white line, making it a little thinner. I'm going to turn it around to do the other side, because I prefer to be lining up with the white line just below me rather than just above me. I think it might have something to do with the fact that when I was at infant school, there was a teacher that would tell you off if you ruled on the bottom of a ruler. So they don't do that now. There we go. Okay, so what I'm actually now left with is 2 white lines and 2 black lines. I could put another black line down the middle, or possibly 2 to fill the gap. It's slightly safer to come back and do that tomorrow when that bit's dried, because if I'm happy with that, then I can leave it there. So I'm going to leave that to be viewed with it with the gap down the middle, so you can see that the next step will be to fill it in tomorrow. And please bear with me, because I now need to make a slight equipment adjustment. This is my 2mm scale lining tool. Okay, there we go. So I'm now going to line a wheel. Oh, yep. Yeah, there we go. Right. The trouble is the table. If I tilt it. Oh, I know. Here we go. There we go. Last week I was demonstrating at a show, and I don't normally get lining done at a show. I might draw a couple of practice lines, but I actually got some lines onto some models, some of what you see here, and I lined the wheels at the show. And trouble is, with some of the tables you get at demonstrations, people sit down there and the whole table rocks. I was very polite. There we go. Right, so let's talk you through what I'm going to do here. Let's get the paints first, shall we? We are going to put a white border around the edge of this wheel. Okay. Now this white has got a skin. Okay, you're seeing different levels here. One didn't have a skin. One did have a skin. Oh, it's not grown back fully yet. Right, there we go. This one's got a skin. It's getting to the point where I'm going to take that skin out. I'm not going to do it now. But last week, when I dipped into this, I thought, oh, we're almost getting to the Humbrol stage here, because you look at that and you look at that and you think, you're going to align with that. It looks more like a paste, but there we go, on there. I need to clean the small one. I've got big ones for reaching in and a small one for the delicate mixing. There we go. That's just the way it ended up. It wasn't planned that way. So this one's going to need a couple of drops of thinners and possibly some more. There we go. And you can see it's actually going back to how you'd expect. Now I haven't got the drip yet, so I'm going to want some more.
Is it thinners just white spirit, or do you
Plain white spirit. No nonsense, quite literally. You can use terps. Terps might give you a little bit more longevity when you're working. You know, I can get quite a lot of lines on in one session, but I don't. Bearing in mind I'm then going to go back and do some tidying. I don't want it to be drying, because then I'm scrubbing at it rather than brushing it, and I might need to get a cocktail stick to shift the paint if necessary, and I don't really want to have to do that. So I have to tell myself, no, do this in 2 sessions. There we go.
How long have you got with the paint in the pen to work?
To work, you could be going for half an hour.
Oh, really? That long?
Yeah, if you're constantly going. It's more likely to dry before you run out, but there have been occasions where I've run out. But if you stop, it's going to dry very quickly.
Because you get that skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you might be able to break it on there, but if you can't, then it's time to renew. Right. So this bow pen, I think I might have got it out last time, very briefly for a curve. It's a bow pen mounted on a compass. Principle is exactly the same. So let's draw a test line. Want to go a bit narrower. There we go. A little bit narrower. That's probably just a tad too narrow. There we go. Alright, yeah, let's go with that. The thing is, these wheels will have a border, a black border put on it, so that will trim the white. So what I've actually got here, So what I've got here, I've got a 2mm axle that I've just turned the end down ever so slightly, and centre popped it prominently with a centre drill in the lathe, and so therefore this wheel here that's got a 2mm hole just drops onto it like that. This is the bit that I've got to be precise on. I've got to have the right amount poking out so that the bow pen will rest on the surface I'm going to paint, and then I've got to get it in the right position, and I need to do that quite quickly on the basis that I don't want the paint to dry. There we go, move it back a bit. Okay, so there we are. I'm located in the centre pop. Okay, I'll try and get my hand out of the way. There we go. Bring it up a little bit further out. There we go. Bring it into contact and turn the wheel. And let's get it working again. There we go. Right. Oops. I'm just rotating it and I'm getting some misses, so that's fine. I will go back. There we go. Touch in, and touch in. Okay. Not quite as tidy as I would normally expect, but my board is rocking a little. So what I will have to do is go in with a little bit of white spirit. I'm not worried about the outside edge because that's going to be covered by black. So I'm just looking at where there's a slight unevenness and just stroking it gently with the brush to take out the lump. And you stroke it a few times and you see it thin away to nothing. There we go. A fatter bit there. And of course I need to do the wheel centres as well. They will be done in the same way. And a couple of days later I'll come back with some black in and put the outer edge on. And that's how you line a wheel. Anybody have any questions?
When you're doing it, say going back to doing the tender side,
Yep.
how much of it would you do in one sitting so that you've not got wet paint and you're smudging it and messing about? Would you do it all at one go? Say do all the white at one go and then come back and do all the black a day or two later?
With so using this as an example, I would probably, I think I did the white panels. I think I did it in 2 goes.
Yeah.
If I'm doing a BR tender, because you haven't got to worry about the back, and the back is a bit fiddlier, you know, because you're working on a smaller surface and you've got other bits and pieces in the way. So I think I did the back and one of the sides and then the other side. If this was a BR tender, I'd have done that side, turn it over, done that side. I could have the lines on. In fact, some people may have heard this, but on one occasion I loaded the pen and then dialed Tony Wright's number, and his wife answered the phone. Whilst the phone's standing there on hands-free, I'm talking to her about all sorts of things. I've put all the straight lines on both sides, and by the time Tony came to the phone, I was ready to put the curves on.
How do you avoid smudging the bits you've done already before?
Good point.
Dry?
It happens, but to avoid it, here it is. I've got various pieces of plastic. This one's a bit big for this particular job, but it holds the ruler off. I can put that piece of plastic on there. It's resting on the foot plate. I do the horizontal ones, the long ones first, because I want the ruler to be that much more secure for the long ones. Then do the verticals, and the verticals, there's normally something on most tenders that's going to keep it off of the other bits. Exceptions to the rule, there are some flush-sided tenders that don't have a proud foot plate. Yeah, it's a pain. I just have to do one side one day and the other side the other.
How comes you don't store the paint upside down, the tins of paint upside down?
Too much effort. I've heard that. I just never got round to doing it. It's I don't know that would stop the skin.
But it'd be on the bottom of the tin, so you've got fresh paint.
Possibly.
Make a right mess when you take the lid off.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I give the paint a shake beforehand, but yeah, that gives you a really messy lid and it makes a mess. I was recommended to try these by Alan Brackenborough because he'd gone down this route.
Is there a particular brand or a particular
Yes.
supplier?
Rights of Limb.
Right.
rightsoflimb.co.uk. If after today you have questions, I'm here tomorrow as well, of course. But if you Google me, I have got a website and you can contact me through there. I'd be more than happy to answer questions. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.